Sarah and David Lawson lived what appeared to be a picture-perfect life in a quiet Portland suburb. Their neighbors saw a happy family, two loving parents devoted to their children, Ryan and Emily, in a comfortable home filled with laughter and warmth. But beneath this calm, well-manicured exterior, cracks were beginning to form in their marriage, cracks that few would have noticed until it was too late. The story of Sarah and David began during their college years, where a chance encounter in a literature class sparked a deep connection. Friends and classmates admired how effortlessly they complemented each other, and soon their budding romance turned into a serious relationship that promised a lifetime of happiness. Their wedding was a joyous occasion, filled with hope and dreams of a bright future. After graduating, David secured a promising job as an architect at a respected firm, his career quickly taking off. Meanwhile, Sarah followed her passion for teaching, becoming beloved by her students and colleagues alike. Their lives seemed to align perfectly, their careers flourishing as they built a home and raised their children. Yet, as work pressures increased, so did the unspoken tensions lurking just beneath the surface. Over time, small disagreements between Sarah and David began to escalate. What started as minor arguments over daily matters soon spiraled into harsh words and raised voices. David's once gentle demeanor grew darker, replaced by bursts of anger that left Sarah feeling confused and afraid. She struggled to understand how the man she loved could become someone so unrecognizable. David's demanding job took a toll on his patience and mood, and the stress began to seep into their home life. Sarah often found herself walking on eggshells, trying to anticipate his triggers to avoid provoking his anger. The atmosphere at home shifted from a safe haven to a place filled with tension and fear. Yet Sarah kept these struggles private, unwilling to admit the truth even to herself. Behind closed doors, David's anger escalated into emotional abuse. He belittled Sarah, questioned her decisions, and isolated her from friends and family. These patterns wore down Sarah's self-esteem, leaving her feeling helpless and trapped. The children, Ryan and Emily, sensed the growing discord, but their young minds could not grasp the full extent of the turmoil. Sarah's isolation deepened as she hid her pain from the outside world. She feared judgment and blamed herself for the breakdown of her marriage. Seeking an escape, she eventually reached out to a counselor, hoping to find clarity and support. Therapy sessions became a lifeline, a place where she could voice fears she had long buried. In therapy, Sarah confronted painful truths about her relationship and the danger it posed. Her counselor urged her to create a safety plan for herself and her children, recognizing signs of escalating abuse. This realization was terrifying but necessary, a turning point that sparked her resolve to protect her family at all costs. When David discovered Sarah's therapy visits, his reaction was violent and vengeful. The anger that had simmered beneath the surface exploded, and their arguments intensified. One evening, during a particularly fierce confrontation, David shoved Sarah, causing her to fall and injure herself. This moment shattered any illusions Sarah had left about their marriage. Terrified and hurt, Sarah managed to send a desperate text to her sister Emma. "Please help me. I'm scared." Emma dropped everything and drove through the night to bring Sarah and the children to safety. It was the beginning of a harrowing journey toward freedom that would test their strength and courage like never before. Once safe in Emma's home, Sarah felt a fragile sense of relief, but the fear still lingered. She knew that escaping David's immediate presence was only the beginning of a long battle. The scars of years of abuse ran deep, and protecting her children from further trauma became her top priority. She began gathering evidence, photos of bruises, threatening messages, and journal entries, to build a case against David. The police responded promptly when Sarah filed her report, but the legal system moved slowly and frustratingly. David's status as a respected professional gave him the advantage of influence and resources. He hired a team of high-powered lawyers intent on discrediting Sarah and undermining her claims. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the complex and intimidating world of restraining orders and court dates. Despite the setbacks, Sarah refused to be silenced. Each court appearance was a test of her courage. Standing face to face with the man who had shattered her sense of safety, she recounted the years of manipulation, fear, and violence with steady determination, hoping her voice would be strong enough to protect her family. The court granted a temporary restraining order, ordering David to keep away from Sarah and the children. For a while, this brought a sliver of peace, but David's anger did not dissipate. Instead, it turned covert and insidious. He began harassing Sarah through phone calls, emails, and even showing up near her new home, threatening to ruin her life. Sarah invested in security cameras and changed phone numbers, but the psychological pressure was relentless. She worried constantly about David's next move, The children's well-being was a constant concern. Ryan, once a bright and outgoing boy, became withdrawn, while Emily's nightmares worsened. Sarah understood that healing would require more than legal protection. It would take time and patience. Sarah found solace in a local support group for survivors of domestic violence. Sharing her story with others who had faced similar horrors gave her strength and validation. She realized the importance of community and advocacy, and began to speak publicly about her, determined to help others trapped in abusive relationships find their way out. David's legal battles continued, with his lawyers attempting to paint Sarah as unstable or vindictive. The public scrutiny added another layer of difficulty, as media outlets sensationalized the case. Sarah learned to navigate this unwanted attention carefully, protecting her children from invasive reporters and judgmental eyes. The children's therapy sessions became a vital part of their recovery. Ryan and Emily slowly opened up about their fears and confusion. Their therapist helped them understand that they were not to blame, and that their family could still be whole in new ways. Sarah watched her children reclaim pieces of their innocence lost in the chaos. As months passed, David's violations of the restraining order accumulated. Each breach was reported and documented, strengthening Sarah's case. Finally, the court ordered David's arrest for contempt, signaling a critical turning point. Behind bars, David was stripped of his power to intimidate and control. Sarah, exhausted but resilient, began to envision a future beyond survival. She pursued further education to expand her career and planned activities to bring joy back into her children's lives. Though the road ahead was uncertain, the darkness that had loomed over the Lawson family was slowly giving way to hope. While David was behind bars, Sarah faced a new challenge: rebuilding her life from the ruins. The emotional wounds were deep, and the constant fear for her family's safety left her drained. Yet, with every small victory, she grew stronger. She learned to reclaim her independence and to trust herself again, something she hadn't done in years. Sarah's relationship with her children became her sanctuary. She spent long evenings talking with Ryan and Emily, helping them express their emotions through art and storytelling. These moments were bittersweet. The shadow of the past was always near, but the bond between mother and children strengthened. The community around Sarah also began to shift. Neighbors who once turned a blind eye started attending her talks on domestic violence. Local officials invited her to participate in forums, helping improve laws designed to protect victims. Sarah's courage transformed from a personal battle into a beacon of hope for many. Meanwhile, David struggled to maintain control from prison. Isolated from his family and social status, he lashed out in anger and frustration. Prison authorities noted his volatile behavior, and his health deteriorated under the stress of confinement and public disgrace. Sarah was not immune to setbacks. On difficult days, memories flooded back. Moments of fear, confusion, and helplessness. She relied on her support network: friends, therapists, and advocates who reminded her she was not alone. These people became her pillars during moments when hope seemed distant. As Ryan and Emily matured, their own resilience became clear. Ryan excelled in school and sports, channeling his energy into positive outlets. Emily, inspired by her mother's activism, volunteered for local charities, determined to make a difference in the world. Both children found ways to heal while carrying the lessons of their past. Sarah continued to face David's attempts to interfere with her life. Letters filled with anger and threats occasionally slipped through prison mail, forcing Sarah to take legal action to block contact. Each letter was a chilling reminder of the danger she had escaped. Despite these challenges, Sarah's determination never wavered. She enrolled in night classes to earn a degree in social work, hoping to help other survivors of domestic violence rebuild their lives. Her personal experience gave her insight that few professionals could match. The media's interest in the Lawson case gradually faded, but the impact remained. Sarah's story had sparked important conversations about abuse in seemingly perfect families. People who had remained silent now felt empowered to seek help, knowing they were not alone. Years later, Sarah stood before a crowd at a domestic violence awareness event. She shared her journey openly: the pain, the fear, and the triumph. Her message was clear: no one should suffer in silence, and help is available. Her courage inspired others to break free from their own hidden prisons. And the road to healing was neither straight nor easy. Sarah faced lingering doubts and nightmares, but she learned to face them head-on. Each therapy session peeled back layers of trauma, allowing her to reclaim parts of herself lost in the storm. Ryan, once shy and fearful, found his voice again through school drama and music. His teachers noticed a new confidence, a spark that had been missing for years. Sarah watched with pride as her son blossomed, knowing this was a victory born from survival. Emily, too, struggled but found comfort in writing and drawing. She filled journals with stories of hope and courage, turning her pain into creative expression. Sarah encouraged this, believing that art was a powerful tool for healing. Meanwhile, David's prison sentence was a constant reminder of the consequences of abuse. The man once respected in his community was now a cautionary tale, his reputation shattered beyond repair. Sarah maintained a strict no-contact policy with David, focusing instead on building a life free from fear. The protective orders were renewed regularly, and law enforcement remained vigilant in monitoring any violations. With time, Sarah began volunteering with local shelters and advocacy groups, offering guidance to women trapped in abusive relationships. Her empathy and first-hand experience made her a trusted mentor and advocate. The community began recognizing the signs of domestic abuse more frequently, thanks in part to Sarah's outreach. School counselors, neighbors, and even law enforcement grew more proactive in protecting vulnerable families. David's sporadic attempts to undermine Sarah's life, through legal maneuvers and intimidation, were ultimately unsuccessful. The court system, bolstered by stronger protections, ensured Sarah and her children's safety. Ryan and Emily's resilience was a testament to the power of love and support. They excelled academically and socially, forging friendships that helped them rebuild trust in others. Sarah's advocacy work gained statewide attention, earning her invitations to speak at conferences and participate in legislative hearings. Her goal was to change laws to protect survivors and hold abusers accountable. As Sarah's voice grew stronger in the community, she also made sure to prioritize her family's privacy and healing. Public speaking engagements were balanced carefully with quiet, nurturing moments at home, where Ryan and Emily could just be kids again. The children's therapist praised Sarah for her unwavering dedication to their recovery. Consistency and love at home created a foundation where the kids could slowly rebuild their sense of safety. Sarah's days were busy and demanding, but she never lost sight of why she fought so hard, to give her children a future free from fear and pain. David's time in prison dragged on, marked by his inability to adapt to a life without control. His frustration boiled over in frequent outbursts, further isolating him from other inmates and guards. The court eventually sentenced David to several more years after violations of his restraining order came to light. The legal system sent a clear message: abuse would not be tolerated. Meanwhile, Sarah's relationship with her sister Emma deepened. Emma had been her rock from the moment she fled the abusive home, providing unwavering support through the darkest hours. Sarah often reflected on how different her life might have been without Emma's courage and quick action that night. Their bond was now stronger than ever, a true sisterhood forged through crisis. Ryan began to speak openly about his childhood trauma with close friends and counselors, breaking a cycle of silence that often traps victims of domestic abuse. Emily's artwork was displayed at local galleries and schools, her creative voice a powerful reminder of the healing potential of expression. Together, the Lawson family navigated the complex path from victimhood to survival, and eventually to advocacy, turning their tragedy into a source of strength for others. Sarah's advocacy work led her to collaborate with law enforcement officers, training them to better recognize signs of abuse and to respond with sensitivity and urgency. She knew firsthand how crucial these interventions could be. She also pushed for improvements in shelter funding and resources, ensuring that victims like herself had safe places to turn to when escaping dangerous situations. The community began to see the ripple effect of Sarah's efforts. Reports of domestic violence increased, not because there was more abuse, but because survivors felt empowered to come forward. Sarah remained vigilant, knowing that the threat from David lingered even from behind bars. She worked with legal teams to ensure all restraining orders were strictly enforced. The children continued to thrive in school and extracurricular activities. Ryan's soccer team won several tournaments, and Emily's art projects received regional awards. Sarah's story inspired a local filmmaker to create a documentary, aiming to shed light on the hidden realities of domestic abuse in middle-class America. The documentary's release brought renewed attention to Sarah's cause, sparking discussions on social media and prompting calls for legislative reform. Sarah balanced this new public attention with her private healing, attending therapy sessions to process the emotional toll of reliving her trauma in the spotlight. Meanwhile, David's health declined, exacerbated by stress and isolation in prison. The once formidable man was reduced to a shell of his former self. The court finally closed David's case, sentencing him to a lengthy prison term without parole, bringing a sense of justice and closure to Sarah and her children. With David securely behind bars, Sarah finally felt a tentative peace settle over her family, but she understood healing was a journey, not a destination. Each day brought new challenges as they adjusted to life without fear, but with the weight of the past still present. Sarah poured her energy into creating a nonprofit organization aimed at supporting domestic violence survivors. She wanted to provide not only shelter but counseling, legal aid, and job training, everything she wished had been available when she fled. The nonprofit quickly gained traction, attracting volunteers and donations from a community inspired by Sarah's courage and dedication. Ryan, now a teenager, volunteered alongside his mother, helping younger kids who had witnessed abuse, hoping to break the cycle early. Emily's artistic talents blossomed further, and she used her platform to advocate for mental health awareness among teens, sharing how art helped her heal. Sarah found joy in small family traditions, like weekend hikes and movie nights, moments that reconnected them beyond their shared trauma. The Lawson family's story was featured in a national magazine, highlighting their journey from darkness to hope and inspiring thousands. Despite everything, Sarah remained cautious, knowing that abusers often harbor resentment long after separation. She took every precaution to safeguard her family's privacy. Through therapy, Sarah worked to rebuild trust, not just in others but in herself, learning to believe she was worthy of happiness and safety. As the years passed, the scars remained, but so did the strength Sarah and her children had forged in the fire of adversity. Sarah's nonprofit expanded its reach, partnering with schools and hospitals to create awareness programs and intervention strategies tailored to diverse communities. Her vision was to prevent others from enduring what her family had faced. Ryan took a keen interest in psychology, inspired by his own experiences, and planned to pursue a career helping trauma survivors. His empathy deepened as he spoke openly about his past, becoming a role model for his peers. Emily, balancing high school and her artistic ambitions, started hosting workshops for children affected by domestic violence. Her gentle guidance encouraged creativity as a tool for healing. Sarah continued public speaking, but always emphasized self-care, encouraging survivors to prioritize their mental and emotional health during recovery. Family vacations, once a distant dream, became a regular tradition. Trips to the mountains and beach brought laughter and memories that helped replace pain with joy. David remained in prison, his bitterness growing as he faced the reality of a life spent behind bars. His appeals failed, cementing the consequences of his actions. Sarah often reflected on how far she and her children had come, from a home overshadowed by fear to a future filled with promise and resilience. Community leaders recognized Sarah's contributions with awards and honors, celebrating her tireless efforts to combat domestic violence. Community leaders recognized Sarah's contributions with awards and honors, celebrating her tireless efforts to combat domestic violence. Most importantly, Sarah, Ryan, and Emily found peace in their shared journey, a testament to the power of courage, love, and healing. Sarah's advocacy work inspired legislation aimed at improving protections for domestic violence survivors. Her testimony before state lawmakers helped pass stronger laws that made it easier to obtain restraining orders and increased penalties for abusers. Ryan volunteered for crisis hotlines, offering a compassionate ear to those still trapped in abusive homes. His firsthand experience gave him unique insight, allowing him to provide hope to callers who felt hopeless. Emily's art was featured in national campaigns, raising awareness about the emotional impact of domestic violence on children. Her voice resonated with young survivors, empowering them to speak out. Sarah continued to face challenges, including occasional encounters with David's supporters, who tried to undermine her credibility. But she remained steadfast, refusing to let fear silence her. The family invested in a secure home with advanced safety features, ensuring that the past could never threaten their sanctuary again. Sarah's nonprofit expanded to offer legal clinics and job placement programs, helping survivors rebuild independent lives free from abuse. Ryan excelled academically and earned a scholarship to study psychology at a prestigious university, fulfilling his dream to support others in need. Emily received a grant to study art therapy, determined to use creative expression as a healing tool for trauma survivors. Sarah's journey from victim to advocate was chronicled in a best-selling memoir, inspiring countless readers worldwide. As a family, the Lawsons celebrated each milestone, honoring the strength that had carried them through their darkest days into a future of hope. Sarah's memoir sparked a wave of support and conversation around domestic violence, encouraging many survivors to come forward and share their stories. Ryan's university experience broadened his perspective, exposing him to new research and approaches to trauma therapy that he planned to bring back to his community. Emily's art therapy workshops gained popularity, especially in underserved areas where access to mental health resources was limited. Despite the progress, Sarah remained vigilant about security, knowing that some abusers never truly let go of control. The family's bond grew stronger, their shared resilience serving as a reminder that love can overcome even the deepest wounds. Sarah's nonprofit launched a mentorship program pairing survivors with those currently struggling, fostering a cycle of empowerment and support. Ryan and Emily often spoke at events together, sharing their experiences to educate and inspire others. Sarah continued to work closely with law enforcement, helping to develop trauma-informed practices that improved responses to domestic violence calls. The community transformed, with increased awareness and resources, creating a safer environment for victims and families. Looking back, Sarah understood that her darkest moments had shaped her into a leader, advocate, and survivor, whose story would continue to impact lives for years to come. Sarah balanced her public role with personal growth, attending therapy and self-care workshops to maintain her emotional well-being amid the pressures of advocacy. Ryan's studies took him across the country, where he interned with organizations specializing in trauma recovery and domestic violence prevention. Emily's artistic journey evolved as she explored new mediums and techniques, always focused on healing and raising awareness through her work. Sarah's nonprofit began collaborating with schools to integrate domestic violence education into the curriculum, aiming to break the cycle early. Family gatherings became treasured moments, where laughter and shared memories reinforced the love that had carried them through hardship. David's incarceration continued with little chance of parole. His attempts to appeal were repeatedly denied, providing a sense of finality for the family. Sarah often reflected on the strength required to face a future uncertain yet hopeful, determined to make every day count. Ryan and Emily's accomplishments brought pride and joy to Sarah, reminders of the life they had fought to protect and nurture. Sarah expanded her advocacy into mental health, emphasizing the importance of addressing trauma holistically for survivors of abuse. The Lawson family's journey was a powerful testament to resilience, a story of pain transformed into purpose, inspiring countless others to find their own path to healing. Sarah began hosting support groups that welcomed survivors from diverse backgrounds, creating a space where shared experiences fostered healing and solidarity. Ryan's research focused on innovative therapies for PTSD, inspired by his own journey and those he met through his mother's nonprofit. Emily's artwork was featured in exhibitions focused on social justice and healing, using visual storytelling to connect with audiences on an emotional level. The family's safety protocols became second nature, a necessary part of daily life to protect against any lingering threats from David or his sympathizers. Sarah received invitations to speak at national conferences, where she advocated for policy changes and increased funding for survivor services. Ryan and Emily both began mentoring younger survivors, passing on lessons of strength and hope to the next generation. Sarah's memoir was adapted into a documentary film, amplifying her message and reaching an even wider audience. Through it all, the Lawsons maintained their close bond, understanding that their shared history was both a challenge and a source of unbreakable strength. Sarah's story became a beacon of hope, illustrating that even in the darkest circumstances, recovery and empowerment were possible. As she looked ahead, Sarah remained committed to transforming pain into positive change, ensuring that her family's legacy was one of courage and compassion. Over time, Sarah noticed how far they had come, from fearful silence to empowered voices, from isolation to community. Each step forward was a victory against the shadows of the past. Ryan and Emily graduated with honors, a proud moment that symbolized not only academic achievement, but personal triumph over trauma. Sarah's nonprofit expanded nationally, partnering with other organizations to create a unified front against domestic violence and abuse. The Lawson story was told and retold, inspiring countless survivors to seek help, stand strong, and believe in a better future. Though scars remained, they served as reminders of resilience, a testament that with courage, support, and love, even the darkest stories could have a hopeful ending.